And I say that with weirdos who I like to build certain things, but because the entire OS has a dark theme, it takes half of the work away. You're not sweating. And of course, also you can align shortcuts just as you see fit. I've had this odd problem where one of my keyboards, it doesn't like that my left control key. It seems to not believe it's there. The right one, no problem. Left one, maybe it's there, maybe it's not. Once I find that out, I'll be interested. But you can also set up profiles so that if you're used to doing things in different ways, and it does have memory for things like when I get home and I plug into this port, it's going to go, oh, you're plugging into your UHD machine, so now I'm going to shift everything over and it's going to do this. Good memory, good stuff for that. In fact, why not? Because, why are we here? Now, one thing that is weird is seeing this lovely application stack. Now, on one hand, it's a nice, it starts out, you're like, oh, that's a nice drop down. You can't do anything to make the icons smaller or larger or change reference. There's none of that. There's just this. And you'll notice, oh, yeah, if you add new ones during a session, it just kind of stacks them on. It doesn't realign, and you don't have a way to do it. But it does mean that you can see such things as, here we go, quick demonstration telling about what kind of chip it is. It's a Coffee Lake micro. It's even telling you the voltage, all the nice pieces. So right now it's at 1.8 gigahertz. There you go. How many sockets, how many cores, how many threads? Yeah. So you've got all those things, and of course your normal, life in a browser, and it deals well. Now it does not have a separate GPU, but obviously there's one on side. So sometimes watching YouTube can start, getting you some slowdown if you're plugged in a monitor at 100 megahertz.
So this is for GNOME?
Yes, it is GNOME. It's based on GNOME. A lot of people, they don't want to, and here, this is the thing, it's like, I'm so used to going cheapskate. I have almost always, when I build a machine, well, because when I build my typical Linux box, if it's a server, I'm gonna put any desktop, I don't want to waste that. That's for chumps. For when I've got a laptop, of course I want one, but usually I'm putting it on like something that like, the dog already got at it. So it doesn't have a lot, I put as much RAM in as I can, but that's what you can do. So I'm usually running things like LXDE or, all of those where it's lightweight. The whole point is that there's not much to it. In this case, it's full on GTK. So you've got a lot of extra, but it also has the power to do some of that. But I am also thinking about what would this look like if I didn't have all of the extra shiny. And what I'm tempted to do, because I've been wanting to have a box to do Kali with, is actually repartitioning, because that's easy enough to do with these machines, and solid state drive, you just tell it. But, and then install Kali, I would have it dual boot.
How big is your solid state?
It's half a terabyte.
Really?
So, yeah, it came with that. So, so right now I have no reason, what's up?
NVMe.
I think it is, but just barely. Because it doesn't seem like, for all the stuff that's crammed in there, it almost have to be at the early NVMe. So it might just be like, what is it, M versus the other? Like it may really just mostly be at SSD speeds, but I'm not suffering. I'll put it that way. Everything's crunching nicely. When I do Python stuff, everything's going smoothly.
Video edit?
I do not do any video editing. That's just me. So it's something I should, well, actually though, I am going to want to start doing my audio editing here because I do have a USB 2.0 sound input with XLR and phantom power off of USB. So I've been meaning to have a stage for doing stuff. But the big thing I've been playing with on here, you might have seen it earlier, that I just started because I was like, well, I've got a place to do it. Can I pretend to be a Commodore 128? Because I'm a dork. And yeah, they got this. So yes, this is Vice. And I show you this because it's kind of fun to, this is, and I'll have reason to switch out a little bit. But let's see. Oh, yes, I can. So this does not require, in fact, What's funny is this does not require this laptop. However, because of the optimizations they've done, it now requires a slightly faster machine than it might have been able to get away with, which is really weird when you consider what I'm doing here is emulating an 8-bit computer. But it is, so Vice, I forget what the V and the I stand for, but the C and E stand for Commodore emulation, or a series of emulators for Commodore-based machines. Now, I say this, and it sounds like, oh, great, installing it, going. There's the problem. Because, yeah, exactly. Because we're dealing with the Debian/Ubuntu world, and because they're, as you know, for all of the shiny, once we're within the open source world, if there's something that's shiny and is not open source, it's guaranteed you're going to go have to hunt and peck for it. And in this case, no exception. If you install from the Debian packages, you will not have the kernel files that actually make up the root of each Commodore machine. Kind of a pain. Good news, so I had to go looking around at websites to find out who sets this stuff up, because I've just kind of been feeling like I want to play with old school BASIC, and I want to see, I don't want my swear words to repeat on screen without guilt. And sad thing is I say that, and what did I do? This is a test. Oh, my wife even laughed at me about that. But the thing was, I was like, okay, so it turns out almost everybody else's package for Vice has those. So what you do is you get the Arch Linux one and just extract the data folder from it. And we're not even talking 10 megabytes of stuff, but extract that out. And I've been building a script to automate that. And I can show you that using this pretty text.
So you're pulling it from an Arch distribution.
Yeah, I'm pulling pieces from the Arch distribution after I've already installed, because Vice Squad, that's what it's called. Vice Squad with Becky Bondage. Punk band, not a good one. But as you can see, I've been building a simple script just to get it to do this in an automated style, to say, go get this. In this case, I grabbed it from the 2.4 version, but there's now a newer one. Grab things out and then move any of the basic chargen or kernel files over. It then turns out also, though, if you're doing anything, and I have it looping through a list of like an array of Commodore types here. So as you can see, 128, 64, 64. This is 64 for a digital TV. It's not actually like the CD one. CBM version 2, PET +4, and VIC-20. So it has it all, but you've got to go grab the bits. But in return, now, this is the thing, you grab a couple drive things, and I'm going to upload this and make this available. I'll put it probably on GitHub just somewhere once I've got it to really like it, because I've been testing it out. But one, it's a shell script. Everything can run this. This is very simple. But more importantly, once you're done, then you've got a working machine. And not only can you have this, where you see it's, oh, we can close this up. Let's see. No, it doesn't like that. Yeah, it's, oh God, it does grow. That is one thing. For something that's just a simple emulation, boy, does it grow. No. What is it?
You emulate the special chips too, aren't you?
Yes, it is a full, it's not just simulating, it is going full hog pound for pound. So this is what, so it's basically, it's also emulating a television. That's the part that it's like, this is where it gets to this interesting level. It's not, you can also set them up just to do serial console, which of course obviously would take far less load. You're not stressing it, but I haven't had the chance to even test that. This has just been, it took me a good couple of hours to get to having, first Commodore 64 turned out to be simple to get working once I got the pieces. 128 took a little extra because it wants every language pack version. Like you have to have the Norway one. And then suddenly it's like, I'm expecting a Swiss one. There wasn't a Swiss one in 2.4. Where did you get this? But there it is. But what it means is, so if you're, whether you're familiar or not, I'm sure most of you played with the Commodore 64 at some point. Or if not, one of the things about it is it's famous for being 40 column and what have you. And because I've been running this at home, it detected my 100 megahertz refresh on my screen and decided, oh, you must be in Europe. So you want a 50 hertz emulation. Okay, well, I guess I'll learn what that's like. So it looked a little different, but let me close out because the thing that's more interesting when you're doing 128 is that you can, here we go. Yes. So if you look closely, and I'm sorry I haven't got it zoomed out, but you'll see it's what I've typed at the
128.
X128-80 column. Now watch this. It'll load up, and there it is. Now our other screen is still just sitting there, but it's not so important. It's like a real computer, complete with the beautiful lines. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of. Okay, I'm really cavilling way too much over a 2 megahertz emulation of a television set. Frankly, the television set work is sort of like, does this mean we could use this to watch old TV shows? Because I think I'd like to do that instead of having look at bad renders. But the fun of it, yes, I'm using state-of-the-art Intel to do, well, it's not technically state-of-the-art, state of whatever classroom comes after lunch. So not our class, but definitely recent material, definitely the fastest machine I've ever run to pretend to be a Commodore.
It's like having a 3090, a GTX 3090 machine that you play MS-DOS, you play Doom.
Better. I'm going to say this is like Spider Solitaire, man. This isn't even that.
Pinball.
There's no hey, don't you talk trash about the. To be fair, I can't allow myself to play the Spider Solitaire anymore because I got addicted in the days of Windows XP. Because every machine, like you get a work machine, and of course there are a lot of things that wouldn't be installed because you're at work. But they never bothered to take the time to remove Minesweeper and Spider Solitaire. And I got addicted. And I was blowing I think I played like 1,000 games within a couple of months. That was really bad. So I had to learn, okay, just because there's no money on the line doesn't mean you couldn't have a gambling addiction. But more importantly, all I lost was time. It's expensive. So, but yeah, enough about me and my foibles. But yes, this is, honestly, I had been wanting to get more of a newer netbook because I like netbooks because they're so small. And this is a 14-inch. It's not huge, but it's definitely not netbook size. However, I've fallen in love with this thing. I'm not going to pretend. This is the best. How little did the guy want? I got it for $300. I mean, new. They're still in the if you bought this like most places, even though it's a couple years old, you'd still be charged about $800. He made it sound like it was exhausting. I didn't even need to do it.
His point of view, it could have been the
He was
Wing fan.
Oh, he's a dev. He was doing CI dev, so he's like constantly like iterating on things, on Java. And it's like, well, of course you're going to hit certain limits, but like for what I'm doing, oh yeah,
No way.
no, not a problem. The porn shows up, right, and so do the pictures of pornography.
Oh,
But I'm sorry, was I supposed to mince on that? Pictures of cats. Okay, Subway names.
we're not.
A lot of stuff.
Porn.
Pet porn, naked cats. There you go.
You know, it's work safe porn. Pictures. I mean, I have 2 cats. They are even today alone. I got this great shot of my cat, just like this face, like it was like awesome. And yeah, everybody can trade it. But anyway, so there's a lot to like. I guess the only real disadvantage is I forget about because unless I'm at the coffee shop, I'm usually using one of my other keyboards. So there's a bit of space on these chiclet keys. But they do have just enough give that if you're stuck with them, everything's fine. The trackpad is surprisingly responsive. It does do all your modern, 2-finger commands and sundry. It's we forget what drivers we have because we're used to using them on older equipment when we're running Linux. And when it's on nice new equipment, you're like, wow, optimization is awesome.
Out of curiosity, with Vice there, is that run completely in software? Or does it use any kind of hardware offload?
I don't think it has too much, so we can actually see a bit of what it's doing, just looking at how it's, yeah, no, I think it's almost, it's pretending a couple things, but it doesn't like, so it's doing so much in software that it's even emulating hardware and software. So I don't know, because it does have to, I mean, like some of the things you're loading are like printer modules, but you do that because so many things want to call a printer, like as default, would call that space. So you have to have something, even if you're never going to have, say, a 1541 drive, because, well, unless you're really. But as you can also see, there's, I mean, look at all these things that are loading that are never going to get touched. Now, it's wanting a variety of things, but that also it does, like, as you can see, usually it's even detecting the built-in graphics and then stepping based on, oh, sorry, I mean, it's sitting in OpenGL. Like it goes all the way out and then comes back. I do not know enough about how they're putting it together, but, and also I'm not connected to the internet. I should say that. But
I remember looking at, it was a project that was a mod for Wall-based Minecraft, and it had, because it was in Java, they just wrote a routine that emulated the 6502 in Java.
Hmm.
And that's what I was curious, you know, at that point, I mean, you're talking about a 1 megahertz CPU that was like 2K of cache or something, and you can add like, well, then
Yeah.
you could emulate the whole thing in a programming environment.
My suspicion that it's almost all emulation is because you'll notice it's emulating a later version SID. It's actually talking about pretending to have a MOS 8580 and then changing its sampling rate to work over. Like that's called completely software. So, I mean, it means that on every machine it's going to do it. Yeah, it's going to take more resources, but we have them. We're sitting around with them all the time anyway. I mean, like this laptop is more powerful than anything we sat in front of in terms of a building back in 1995. So it's, you know, we've got the spare cycles. It's, I mean, I'm doing this on battery and it's still, you know, like, oh, it's down to 78%. How long does it think it'll take? An hour 50. Oh, well, okay. But yeah, the pieces are there. Now, if only I could remember enough basic to do simple things. But it's not, oh wait, I could do that. But there's plenty to love. And also plenty to go, what is my exit key for this? But that is one thing. Sometimes keys that I know don't work, but you know, Vim works, so don't work too hard. Though of course, because it's Debbie and I had to go, I should live so long. I got my SSH keys in. I'm going to my machines. I'm thinking, I got stuff. Any questions?
So the new machines of this manufacturer primarily made for gaming? Is that
They're starting to move towards, because of Steam.
yeah.
Yeah, Steam has pushed, has given Linux an extra life. Not on the desktop that we never expected. Yeah, but it also means that people have actually had complaints about version 5, the latest version of this machine, that don't exist with this. So I may have accidentally bought the Unicorn tank for 300 smackers. You know, it means that I did this and didn't have to get rid of another laptop where I'd been doing emulation. It actually only has half the RAM of this thing, but I need that because when you're job hunting, you need real Word. I can pretend all I want. Oh, you could use LibreOffice. Yeah, and then it loads and it looks fun. Being an adult, use Word when you got it, because then you get the job and you can buy more open source stuff. Fine. Micro Center is not going under. I'll make sure of it. Good Ohio business.
Yeah, so it's just 365.
Well, hey, at least that does it work in Linux? I mean, I assume it does.
Now it's starting to, because they're working with
So much with the
WSL too.
Yeah.
And
They're still in the middle of their embrace. They have yet to extinguish. So we'll see how long it goes.
All those Google Docs.
Yeah, but you can't.
You can now have Windows by WSL too.
Oh, yeah.
You go around Microsoft.
A riddle trapped in an enigma inside a burrito served with chickpeas.
I'll give
You
them
could,
much credit with WSL, at least it runs an actual Linux kernel in a virtual machine now.
Yeah, run both kernels.
Yeah, I was like, that's impressive because the old way of doing it was basically Sigma.
Yeah.
well, you
Nobody
can,
likes Sigma. I think it's Sigma like Sigma.
Yeah.
My point is, why stay in Windows?
I have two words that can easily describe them. Fusion 360 AutoCAD.
Oh.
It does not work in Linux, and anyone who tells you it does is lying to you.
And they said that they're working on a web-based version?
No, they're not.
Of course not. No, there are a couple things in the world where there's always going to be something. Though strangely, that grouping of things does shrink over time. I mean, at one time, we had plenty of, 20 years ago, there were so many things you couldn't do. Yeah, we had lovely X and it was efficient, but what ran on it? I mean, even its PDF viewer was, man. Now you can use the same PDF viewer, but because the chips are so much faster, all the problems are gone. Because it's like, oh, there it is. Get a little spoiled with that, but no, it's true. There's always going to be
Most
something.
of your large corporations are in a Unix-based CAD system.
Yeah.
And if you're doing any work, doesn't matter if you're working in AutoCAD, they want it in their file.
Of course, yeah.
The only thing it really, actually, I'm even planning on moving away from Windows, especially Windows 11. Disaster.
Yeah, we have, as usually, got to wait for the second iteration. We don't know what that's going to be because they're not admitting it
They're
originally.
already saying Windows 11 is just a prettier interface with Windows 10.
Oh, I would expect it. I saw that a mile away because it's like Windows 10 was a success.
Yeah.
It started out a little rocky. No, I'm talking about Microsoft standpoint. The adoption rate was crazy. Hey, let's give it away for free. People were like, sure, why not?
Well, Windows 11 is on the downstroke of the alternating good versus
Yes.
bad.
Yes,
OS.
it's like Star Trek.
So that means, by that definition, then it'll either be 11.1 or 12. That'll be good. One of the
Or
other.
they'll just call it 11.12, just to confuse.
11.
I understand that they went to 11 so quickly, so they were saying that.
Quickly, it took them a decade. They were never going to upgrade. They said they were done at 10.
I know, that's what I'm saying, that, they said that.
Don't worry.
Keep
Windows
upgrading
365 is coming. They've already talked about it. It's actually going to be a thing on the
What?
Azure cloud. You're going to be able to
Oh,
buy an OS as a service.
They already have.
Yeah.
It's called the PC.
That's not gonna go over well.
Azure PC or something? Or
No, it's
just PC?
it's Microsoft PC.
Really? I didn't
It
think they gave
runs,
it a name.
it runs in Azure.
Yeah, you can get up to, I was reading, you can get up to 16 gigs of RAM in it.
But you have to have your credit card online.
Of course. Yeah, just like EC, it's Amazon EC squared for normal people. That's what it is.
Yeah, wait till, some random outage will just kill that for a day like baseball.
Right. I mean, considering that the last time when Amazon went down, it took down 1/3 of the internet for, what was it, 8.5 hours?
Something like, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, let's put all our eggs in one basket. That hasn't, nothing to do with that.
that doesn't burn anybody ever. Except right now.
Until someone disconfigures an iSCSI storage or NFS. and it's
Kind of amazing what little it can take to take down.
Well, that's what happens when you invest in the wrong tools.
Hey, for once it was a DNS problem.
Oh, Facebook group is always DNS. When you don't think it's DNS, it's DNS. And it's not. It's probably.
Well, next time I have something to present, I hope it will be much more interesting because, I mean, I'm just enjoying this because this is like, woo, amortization. But I dug out some pieces. I don't know if you guys remember a couple of years ago, it's about 4 years ago, because I was still in my rental house, also not the house I owned. AT&T had come out with this IoT Connect kit based on the Freedom 64 card, with other things. I've been meaning to revive it because T-Mobile, as we all know, has 5G now, but that also means almost any SIM card you get from that connects to their 5G network. And most MiFi tools, unless you buy a brand new one, they only connect it like 3G and do other weird things. But this thing connected at full 4G. So I want to see if I can get that working using Mbed OS. I think I've talked about that before. Open source RTOS. And because they run this explicitly with this cape that it has. And I want to get that going and see how it goes with art. So that's going to be a little bit. I'm not sure I'm going to have time to have that ready by February, but I might. I'm not sure. But there's always Smarch.
Yep.
The 13th month with all its lousy Smarch web.
Yeah. We have plenty of openings throughout the year, so anytime that somebody has something that, well, we're up to January now. That's pretty much impressive for us. Yeah. It's posted.
Show it if be interested in something like PF Sense.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, I would love that.
I could do a thing on PF Sense.
Oh,
I've
absolutely.
been wanting it for years.
that would be good.
PF Sense. Technically, it's not Linux though. Technically, it's BSD.
It's close enough.
It's okay.
Close enough.
It's
Open enough.
Nix, as they was it asterisk Nix, I think they call that stuff.
Actually, yeah, I used
Yeah,
to
New
run
York
that
Knicks,
years
yeah.
ago.
And what's interesting about my particular platform that I run on, it's a little embedded box by a company called PC Engine. It's a Swiss company. It runs an open source BIOS
Oh,
based on code.
Yeah.
It's the niftiest thing because it's like, oh, BIOS update, flash ROM, kick the ROM into it, reboot it, and it's updated.
nice.
And it gets updated. I just updated, I think, for the third time in November or October or something. I mean, I think it's updated very frequently.
Hmm.
Yet they always remind you at the bottom of every change thing, it still won't boot send.
It won't do what?
It won't boot send. Apparently, someone is trying to put send hypervisor.
Like, send, like,
No, like send like the virtualization stack. I'm assuming, but they always hit the button at the bottom. Still won't boot Zen. And I'm like, who is trying to run Zen on this thing? It has 4 gigs of RAM. It's basically a Raspberry Pi that's x86.
Ooh.
well.
I'm
but
looking at this
you,
PC.
you remember the
got 3
supply
weeks.
chain
PC
hack?
Engine's is slick.
Yeah.
Do you remember the supply chain hack for Asus?
No. Supply chain hack? No.
Asus got some malware on their distribution server for their updates.
Oh, and then people were pulling updates down that were tainted. I remember that happened to Mint Linux. Same thing. Someone got in there and they got malware and then
They're calling that a supply chain hack.
oh, I didn't know that's.
Oh, that's what we call it now.
But I remember their thing was that someone got in on their build server and injected malware in it before it built the ISO. So this thing's cranking out ISOs with this tainted malware in them. And it was a rootkit nonetheless. So it was nice and quiet, stayed down low where you don't notice it. Unless you're looking at your D-message stuff. Right. And then someone's like, that's not supposed to be there.
So now I've got the idea of the song Tainted Love, but it's Tainted Blood.
It wouldn't be nearly as good by either.
Don't
Soft
make
cell
fire,
market
please,
space.
I cannot stand.
I might have played me about it. I have a.
Yeah, what were we saying about virus?
I'd like to talk to you about how to update that, because I've never got an update with that.
Well, you have to do it manually.
Oh,
There's a website, it's, I can get you the website. But basically it's ran by PC Engines. It's a GitHub, one of those GitHub pages. And they have all of the BIOS for it. And most of them is a straight upgrade. You don't have to jump between. I think if you're coming from a real, like which platform do you have?
the latest one.
The APU 2?
Yeah.
Okay, because I've got the APU.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, is
called
it?
the APU 4, but it's the APU 2 with the quad edge on the back of it. So they call it something different, but basically you have to know which one because they only have all 5 or 6 versions.
Oh, I
built for the different platforms. You have
What's
to download your image, your ROM image. And then if you're running PF Sense, they don't have a direct tool to push the thing. You have to go into the shell
Okay.
download something called flash lock. And then there's a command that I grabbed from a blog that basically is how you flag it to write, then you tell it where to write, and it pushes the ROM into the thing.
Did yours take like 5 minutes?
Right. Here and there, I mean, I wouldn't say, it takes a couple of minutes for me to get the chirp from PM, so it's a little da-da-da-da-da, thing that says I'm done. But to actually go from 0 to 60, 2 minutes maybe, and I've got an SSD in mine.
Yeah,
I've
I
set
had
it up.
to double check mine. Mine takes, sometimes takes
Is it
5 or
PM
more
size?
minutes to boot up to the church, so.
Yeah, it's not the fastest thing, but a lot of it, I've actually watched the boot shell from the serial output. The boot shell is, a lot of it's waiting on FreeBSD. It gets hung on waiting for the interfaces to establish.
Oh,
Oh.
that makes
And
sense,
it just sits there, like it'll say, wait, configuring WAN interfaces, dot, 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 and it just keeps trailing the dots. Then all of a sudden you go, oh, I'm done. And you go, what's the hold up? You know, like what's going on, guys? Like,
Okay, so it's not like, you know, you press any key for boot.
no. And so